And now, you know what's going to happen? He's going to talk. And he's got a microphone, he's got a podium, he's got a stole, he's got a certificate, and here he is. Please welcome the Reverend Scout Bartlett.
I had no idea all that was going to happen. I thought I just would get wrapped up in a shawl and handed a piece of paper and then talk. So, wow, thank you. Thank you, every single one of you that's here. I saw a meme the other day that just lit my eyes up, and I wish I had written it. And basically what they'd written was, I have very few filters. I choose to be as surprised as everybody else is by what comes out of my mouth. And that is my life and my walk. Really, really early on, I had a client that truly, I think she actually booked a whole series of time with me more as a donation than any expectation that I'd actually accomplish anything, which is sort of interesting. That's happened a number of times in my history where people will say to me, well, you'd given me a lot in the radio show or whatever, and so I booked a session just because I figured I owed you something. But when we are in session, my job is to be out of the way. And I sat down with this woman, and the first phrase in my head was, when in the course of human events, which I overrode and went, no, that's just, any of y'all that have seen the movie Inside Out, you know, that's just an old hit replaying in the back of my brain. And I cleared it out, which is what I do when I think it's my brain talking. I cleared it out, and then the next thing I heard was, when in the course of human events. And I cleared that out, and it showed up again, and that's kind of my rule in any session. When I think it's my brain talking, I'll blow it out twice, and if it shows up a third time, it's like, okay, not my job to have any idea what I'm talking about or why. I just have to get out of the way and say it. And it followed up with, when in the course of human events we stumble across an answer, we often do find ourselves quite blind in seeking instead the question. When I think about that, there's a place where I notice that if I were someone who grew up at the head of the Amazon River down near the equator, I would never find myself trying to figure out the best strategy for a snowball fight. In fact, if somebody tried to describe a snowball fight, I would think of, well, yes, we've splashed cold water on each other also, and that's not it. I wouldn't be able to wonder about a snowball fight till I actually knew about a snowball fight. Breathe, please. Oh, sorry. If y'all would, deep breath in, let it out again. When you find self, back up, restart. I view us as being a core essence that is who we really are, wrapped around by our energy tangles, which are our reason for being here, our curriculum, our lessons for this lifetime, which we experience quite gently as our stuff in the way. I find it easiest for people to recognize core essence in somebody they love, because then they can be frustrated that somebody they love is running into their stuff in the way, whether that's their kid, their loved one, their teacher, their partner, whatever it may be. When we run into a place where you're smack into your energy tangles, your lessons, your curriculum, on one hand, I would describe that we could think of our lessons, those energy tangles, as being a ball, a sphere of a certain diameter, size not written, size doesn't matter. For as long as we keep our aliveness in a smaller ball of energy than that ball of our limitations, nod your heads if this is tracking, As long as we keep our aliveness in a smaller sphere of energy than the size of the ball of our lessons, our limitations, we don't run into the limitations. We can just tool right along and, oh, I apologize for this, and view ourselves as a perfectly stable genius. I apologized first, I apologize again. But truly, it's a good example and a good analogy of if we haven't run into what is our limitations, or even what could be bigger than that, then it's the Dunning-Kruger effect of the people that don't know much about it are more likely to think they know everything about it than the people that know a lot about it who realize how much they don't know. For as long as our energy level stays smaller than the level of our lessons at this point in time, we don't run into them. And we just tool right along and everything just is. Normal, same. Until we actually reach a growth point where we're expanding beyond the size of that, innermost layer of our innermost limitations. When we reach a growth point where we're expanding beyond that innermost layer of our innermost limitations for whatever reason, that's when we run smack into the limitations, and we don't know why this happens this way, we don't know why we are this way, we don't know where that came from, we don't know why we can't, we don't know why we have to live this way, we can't imagine why we'd have to put up with this forever, blah, 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 blah. But only because we've already, everybody deep breath if you would please, let it out again, only because we already have grown beyond, experienced beyond that innermost layer of our limitations. Breathe again, please. We have to have experienced ourselves in the energy state that is the solution to the question, when in the course of human events we stumble across an answer, we often do find ourselves quite blind in seeking instead the question. When answers come first, that's quite in reverse of what was always expected. We can get caught in that whole scenario of why, where's it from, how do I solve it? I mean, I always like to point out that if I had an issue with my body and I went to a surgeon, I'm likely to get a surgical solution offered to me, right? But if I had a body situation and I went to a Qigong master, I'm likely to get an energetic Qigong solution to my issue. If I had a body issue and I went to a bartender, I'm likely to get a cocktail. If I go to my brain mind, if I go to my linear mind to look for an answer to my life path, I'm likely to get an answer that says, well, the only way through this is you'll have to think it through and figure it out. I'll get a brain answer. On the other hand, if I went to a whole bunch of people that I know that are hooked on running, they'll tell me, oh, when I run into a psychological issue, I run it till my knees hurt. In fact, there was a period in the 80s when running was the thing that you could basically tell how much inner work people were going through by how bad their knees were. But I'd get it right. So if I went to somebody body-oriented, I'd get a body solution. If I went to somebody emotion-oriented, I might get, well, let's do, hundreds of hours of talking this through. Do you remember the first time your mama smacked your hand when you reached for a cookie? That must be it. And might well be. And underneath all of it, it's an energetic solution. Answers come first, though that's quite in reverse. It's all about energy state. Now, it's all about energy state, but we have to get our brain out of the way. It's all about energy state, but we have to get our body out of the way. It's all about energy state, but we have to get our emotions to let go enough to where the energy state can expand. And it's all about energy state. We are energetic beings. I loved another meme that I saw online. It turns out that we're all geniuses when we're doing it in memes, which basically said, and I loved it because it just punched my buttons. It said, you do not have, and I don't remember the phrasing. They might have said soul. I'm going to say spiritual essence. You do not have a spiritual essence. I was revving up till I read the tiny print which said, you don't have a spiritual essence. You are a spiritual essence. You have a body. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I get it. Right on. Good reminder. And yet we can start to think we're this. So I've been meditating for some number of weeks now, thousands of them. And even still sometimes it was this, and it's so cute because this marks in my brain. It was maybe about a year and a half ago. It's that critical. I was in my meditation, and in my meditation I experienced myself experiencing my body. And then I experienced myself, it was much faster than this, but I experienced myself experiencing the energy field I usually work in. And then I experienced myself experiencing something that was beyond that. And then I had a moment. And of course I thought, oh, got it now. Yep, check, got that figured out. I got a handle on it. This is me forever. Where I got to experience me both as nothing and everything. Where I got to notice how tiny the body experience was, how tiny the energy experience was, how tiny the this life experience was, how tiny the this life and all the other life experience was, how contained all of those were, when the truth was that nothing and everything. And it was such a sweet moment, and it was such a glorious moment that my brain dove in immediately and went, good, got it. We've got that now from now on. And I haven't been able to get back yet. But now I know what that is when answers come first. Now I know what that is. Now I know that's what I'm reaching toward, is my awareness that I am not separate from anything, nor is anything separate from me. I am everything, and everything is me, and while I am still me, my favorite analogy would be that one piece in the 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. If you've ever tried one, you're with me. That's nothing but blue sky. There's no mark, there's no bird, there's no piece of cloud, there's no evidence. And you look at that piece and you know that piece isn't leading anywhere. Till you get to where the cat has tossed it on the floor and you can't finish the puzzle without it. Now that's the single most important piece in the puzzle, even while it's the single most nothing piece in the puzzle, and the puzzle's not complete, breathe please, without it. So this actually, and I wish I had it, somewhere I had a transcription of the whole thing, but the poem went on for pages, but this is as much as I still retain. When in the course of human events you stumble across an answer, we often do find ourselves quite blind in seeking instead the question. When answers come first, that's quite in reverse of what was always expected. Situations in time don't always rhyme, and yet they follow due course. When in the course of human events we stumble across an answer, we often do find ourselves quite blind, seeking instead the question. Do I need to figure out my childhood? Do I need to figure out my ancestry? Do I need to figure out who to forgive? Do I need to figure out how to be forgiveness? When in the course of human events we stumble across an answer, we often do find ourselves quite blind when seeking instead the question. When answers come first, that's quite in reverse of what was always expected. Situations in time don't always rhyme, and yet they follow due course. We have all the time in the world and no time at all. The Dalai Lama, when I was lucky enough, and if anybody's ever got an extra ticket, yes, please, I'll go. But a friend of mine got tickets, and I got to hang out in person with the Dalai Lama, me and, 30,000 of his other friends in whatever they call Shoreline now. I lose track. But a portion of the service he did included my phrasing, because I'm not Tibetan Buddhist. He makes a dedicated vow that he lives and that he lives out, that he'll stick around till everybody's reached the light, so that till everybody's elevated, till everybody's moved beyond three-dimensional, four-dimensional space. He'll stick around till everybody's gone so that he can sort of catch the lights and lock up. It's not quite how they phrase it, but that's basically how I heard it, which took my breath away and seemed sort of familiar. We're in the midst right now of elevating this entire reality system of the School of Earth up a notch, as my guidance likes to put it. Their analogy is we're moving from a third grade classroom to a fourth grade classroom, frequency-wise. We're also in the midst of watching this amazing, spectacular polarity of understandings of what's the truth. I heard somebody speak once and I absolutely loved it because their comment was, in any dispute, always remember both sides think they're the good guy. So we're seeing this amazing polarization in belief systems about what's the truth. One side, I would characterize, they would not, as I need to make sure there's somebody else that I am better than so that I'm not at the bottom of the pile. My characterization, not theirs. For certain. The other side, my characterization, because I think I'm the good guys, is, wow, it's all me, it's every bit me. I need to understand how everybody's seeing it, but I need to understand that without being it. That it's a moment for me to find that core essence in me, regardless of circumstances, which is phrased traditionally in my early learnings as unconditional love. A popular phrase, which sounds really lovely till you're a parent, or a partner, or a child, or even a teacher that's public enough that I get feedback from people. And so I had to do some, I'm an engineer by birth, upbringing, raising, genetics, and schooling. I had to do some math on that. And this is what I came to. And that I think of as the core of everything I teach, although there's several cores of everything I teach, including us lighting up and glowing through the whole room around us, is that love is the word for the sensation we experience when our energy and our aliveness is flowing in us. My practice is a vertical beam of energy from the core of the earth up through me to source, and then willfully increasing that flow until two things can happen. One, source level energy can conduct down along that same beam that I've built. Same way electricity doesn't change the copper wire, but you have to haul the copper wire to the outlet. So that source level frequency can conduct through me. One, and two, until I've increased that energy flow until I light up and I glow through everything around me. Floors, chairs, walls, ceilings, people, baby ducks, young rhinos, young firebirds. That's my grandnephew and my grandniece. And then I double dip because when I do that on the radio, I'll point out and scout, redeeming newspaper-worthy lotto winnings. What the heck? Let's have everybody cheering for me. But I view myself as a vessel that it's a lot like, I think it was Michelangelo that was quoted of how do you do these sculptures? And he said, I just look at the sculpture and chip away all the rock that isn't that. I view myself as I look at that core essence, and then my goal is to drop away all of the rock that isn't that, regardless of circumstances, unconditionally. So I am uplifting, transmuting physical level energy up to the frequency of source, while allowing myself to be a conduit for source level energy into Earth School, and allowing my light to shine out through everything around me, regardless of circumstances. And this is, it's cute because I play with words a lot because I like them. But my recognition is that mostly what I do is I talk my walk, which means I tell a lot of embarrassing stories on myself about how dumb I was 5 minutes ago and how brilliant I got a second ago, and hope to continue the process. So I end up talking what I've been digging through and learning and hopeful that that's beneficial. My view is that we're here now on purpose, with intent. We chose to be here now. And I laugh at me a lot because I can remember me standing in front of guidance council. I've had visions standing in front of council figuratively, basically saying, the game's going to be a mess. Put me in, coach. I got it all figured out when I was there for Atlantis, which it's clear as I remember I didn't. But at least I rode along when I was there for Atlantis. I'll be good at this transitional polarized time frame. And now my mantra is closer to, what was I thinking? And yet, I view my role as to be an energetic trigger reminder that my goal is, and I offer you to take the same goal, but you don't have to. My goal is every time I become aware of myself, whether I'm aware of me because I'm grumpy, whether I'm aware of me because I'm angry, whether I'm aware of me because the amazing blessing that I got stuck behind I left later than I intended to this morning, and I got stuck behind some slow cars right at the moment to see the highway patrol car go zwoosh by me in the far left lane. Oh, thank you, God. My favorite view of a highway patrol car, actually. You know, oh, yeah. And huge wave of, I love life. Every time I can become aware of me, my goal is to come back to that core essence of me and light me up so that I am in it. Love is a word for the sensation we experience when our energy and our aliveness is flowing in us, lighting us up so that we glow. So my practice is every time I become aware of me, and I'm noticing that, sad to say, but a chunk of my practice is noticing that I'm aware of me when I'm grumpy. Why are they taking so long? Why is this line so stupid? Why didn't people organize? You know, whatever. All of those things. As soon as I can notice those, my job is to come back to the core of me, light me up until I glow, so that I am a state of, love is a word for the sensation, energy, aliveness flowing in us, so that I am a state of love regardless of circumstances. My practice is to be a lit up presence and flow of energy, regardless of circumstances, which turns out it translates to unconditional, regardless of circumstances, love, my aliveness flowing. Oh, I thought it was already late. Yay. From that, we'll just take a moment, and I'd like you to join in this was fun. I was leading a group of people, used to do retreats in Sedona, Arizona. And I was leading a particularly free-thinking group.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So they had suggestions, improvements, requests, and demands throughout. And so I had been up since early a.m., hiking, working, talking, teaching, and it's now midnight, and I'm at the Safeway because they're open all night, picking up some things that I need to fulfill the requests people had for tomorrow. So I'm not in a great mood. And I am grumping through Sedona Safeway. I am seriously grumping through Sedona Safeway, trying to remember my shopping list, hoping they have everything I need, finding all this stuff. And Sedona, well, it's a little more organized now, but it was really a draw for a lot of people that owned RVs and were travelers. And I'm in the aisle in Sedona, and I see this guy in traveling clothes start tooling down the aisle toward me. And I'm thinking, I am not ready to deal. And I grabbed what I needed, fortunately, turned my cart around and exited the aisle in the other direction. And went over a couple of aisles, and I'm finding whatever I need, and I see him come around the corner again. It's like, oh, man. And he's tooling down the aisle, and just as I'm ready to exit, I hear a voice say, Scout? Scout Bartlett? Well, there's no escape now. And I freeze in space, looking at this individual, and he comes tooling up. And about the time he gets to my grocery cart, this woman is peeking around the corner, literally peeking around the corner of the aisle, and the guy looks at her and says, it's him, it is him. She comes tooling down the aisle, and the two of them are there at my grocery cart at midnight in the little tiny town of Sedona, out of nowhere for no reason whatsoever, and they're going, oh my God, this is amazing that we would see you. This is fascinating. We haven't seen you in a long time, but you have no idea how many people you've helped. We've been teaching what you taught us all the way around the whole country. We retired, we bought a motorhome, we've been traveling around the country, teaching your work everywhere we go. You have no idea how many people you've affected. I'm sorry, but which class were you in? No recognition on my side whatsoever. And they freeze frame, look at each other, look back at me, and talk at the same time. Oh, that's true. You'd have no idea who we were. We were one of like 300 people in some audience you talked. You did a talk. You talked about that vertical beam thing. And we just thought it was so perfect that we were retiring. We bought a motorhome. We've been teaching that vertical beam thing everywhere we go. But you wouldn't have any reason to know us. It's like, oh, phew. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I get it. I don't always have to get to know what I just did, or who I just affected, or what I just taught, or who I just taught as a reciprocal part of that. So if y'all would just take a moment, you don't have to close your eyes, but just take a moment and imagine that you could reach a hand down to the center of this planet Earth and stir that warm, rich, dense energy there. Curl that hand into a cup and use that cupped hand now to pull a streamer of energy from the center of the earth right up into your body, just in front of your tailbone, your first chakra. Connect it there and just imagine that you could feel that same warmth, earth center and your whole pelvic cradle. And focusing there at that connection point, stretch that beam from the earth up to about navel height, deep inside your body, just in front of your spine, second chakra. And let that warmth expand. Tailbone, earth center, low belly, draw it up to your diaphragm, solar plexus, let that warmth expand. Earth, pelvic cradle, navel, diaphragm, stretch it up deep inside your body, just in front of your spine, heart level, deep inside your body, just in front of your spine, throat level, deep inside your body, going right up your neck into the middle of your head, to the top of your head, out to the top of your head, stretch that stream of earth energy that you pulled up, stretch it out the top of your head, all the way up into an overhead energy cloud I'm just going to call source. And willfully increase that flow until it's geysering or fountaining, erupting into source. More, till you can feel either a pressure or warmth inside of you, and let that glow right out through you and right out through everything around you. Floors, chairs, walls, ceilings, but all of the people here in the room. Right through them as if they're both transparent to it, but they're also included in it. If you could imagine them being, as easy as the breeze flowing through a screen, or with one client the other day, if you could imagine them all being grid work made out of sponge, to where the water's in the sponge but flowing through the sponge is included, and yet it's still its own sponge. Just play with it, let it glow out through them. And from that, notice any place in you that tightened up, and just release it now. Be that beam of energy, because that's actually who you are. You don't have a beam of energy. You are a beam of energy. You're mobilizing a body, an awareness, a mind, an emotional sense, a presence in a three-dimensional experience that we think of like a planet. But you are that beam of energy from the center of the earth right up into source. You're that connecting link that is here to uplift, transmute physical level energy, and at the same time to untangle the lessons you took on as your curriculum. Give that body a huge breath if you would. Let it out. If you had your eyes closed, let it bring them back open and bring you right on back into the room. And I can comfortably tell you that, thank you. I love you so very much.